Good evening, everybody. I will call the special meeting to order at 4:01. Madam Clerk Rosine, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dynas.
Here.
Councilmember Diedrich.
Here.
Councilmember Temple.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Here.
And Mayor Estrada.
Here. Next, we are on our flag salute, Pledge of Allegiance. I see Chris Thomas in the audience. Mr. Thomas, can you please lead us in the pledge, sir? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Next, we're going to move on to our discussion. This is our discussion on Menifee Placemaking, Unique Identity, and Tourism Master Plan. And I would like to call up Economic Development Manager Kayla Charters to introduce the item. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Am I on here? I am? Okay, well, I'm just gonna, I think that we got it now. So good evening, Mayor and council members and committee and commissioners. I'm so happy that so many of you guys showed up for this special workshop. My name is Kayla Charters. I am the Economic Development Manager here for the City of Menifee, and I am thrilled to be here this afternoon to introduce the Placemaking, Unique Identity, and Tourism Master Plan that we have for you today. So as you know, Menifee faces our unique challenge of where we don't have a unique identity. So the council's proactive approach on this was including creating a unique identity within our strategic plan. So unique identity is one of the overarching goals that we have for our strategic plan here in Menifee. So the plan that we have brought forward for you today to review and discuss is hopefully going to be achieving 2 of the goals outlined within our strategic plan. This project started back in August of last year, so it's been almost about a year of work that our team has been collaborating with our consultant Hunden partners to get the project where it is today to present in front of you guys. At this time, I would like to acknowledge and thank my teammates that have been working on this project and got the project to where it is today. Mariana from our Community Services Department, Orlando from our Community Development Department, Phil from our PIO office, as well as our leadership in the City Manager's office. The plan that you'll see today has a lot of really exciting action items that we will hopefully be implementing upon your approval. It's really gonna guide our city into to create a special destination for our residents and our visitors to experience something special and create memories in our community. So the city partnered with Hunden Partners, who has a wide variety of experience of doing these types of plans, destination marketing and creating these tourism plans. They've worked with over 1,000 organizations across nationwide and have some special regional experience with some of our neighboring cities in the community. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Matt Avila from Hunden Partners to go over the plan that we have presented to you today.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having me today. I cannot express how excited we are as a team to present this final plan to you all today in this special session. So let's jump right into it. So to talk a little bit about this plan as well as the methodology that we went through in creating this, we really like to see this as an assessment of looking at where the city of Menifee has been, what are the opportunities that you all have looking forward into the future, and then how we get there. I'll talk a lot about how this is a roadmap. This is an action plan. This isn't something that we want to have, sit on the shelf and grab some dust, but we want this thing to be beat up a little bit and looked at thoroughly in terms of what the outcomes might be that can lead this destination forward into the future. So I want to just say a few words before I get started here. I grew up in Orange County. Our firm is based in Chicago, but I love coming back here. I have family in Marietta, so I've been coming to this area my entire life. So when I had the pleasure of leading this study for Hunt and Partners, I was super excited to be back and hopefully can provide some great work that can guide you on the path forward from the great work that you all have already been doing up to this point for the city of Menifee. So to touch on some of our overall findings as well as the project purpose, this aligns, as Kayla mentioned, with the strategic plan as well as the resident feedback that we heard throughout this study process. I'll talk a lot about some of that resident feedback, the sessions that we held. It's great to see some familiar faces in the room who we engaged with throughout this process. So we're really, really excited about all of that. So why now? We feel as a firm that this is the perfect time for you all to be going through an endeavor like this. You all are growing significantly, seeing so much development. It's the time to have a plan and a framework in place to look forward into the future for the next 5 or 10 years and where you all want to be come that time. There's over $2.2 billion in unmet need in dining and retail and amenities, with local residents going to the surrounding area for those family entertainment, dining options, and things that people want to do that are great for the community, but also for families that are relocating here, as well as companies. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is a significant need, and we'll discuss that in the retail section when we get there. And then finally, we feel there's a strong need for authentic community hubs and family-friendly experiences. So where are you going on a Friday night with your kids to, hear a concert, grab some food, or just hang out with local community members? That is such a strong need in the community, and as we look forward, and you'll see in some of the strategic priorities, how do we implement that in the framework within the community? Where is that located? How do we get people there, and how do we get buy-in? So as it relates to unique identity, throughout this process, through the local engagement, looking at the surrounding communities and what makes you all such a special place, we found that there are really 5 core pillars that make up the city of Menifee. Those are culture and heritage, adventure, innovation, community and belonging, and opportunity. Those 5 things we feel throughout this process really rose to the top, and we heard from so many community members on why they're passionate about the community that they live in today. So I want to touch on the key strategies that we'll go throughout this presentation today, but I'll high-level a few that I feel and our team feels are most important looking forward for you all as leaders in the community. The first being establishing epicenters along the 215 corridor with mixed-use culture and civic spaces. We'll show some great inspiration of what that looks like and how we can bring some more density to those areas with some more dining options and different types of family entertainment, as I mentioned. A few more to touch on, developing the Menifee Hills into a signature recreation and adventure destination is something that we feel can really be a differentiator for the city from some of the surrounding communities that don't have those outdoor recreation offerings. And then finally, I'll touch on one more. I know there's a few more up there, but we'll hit on them throughout this presentation, is really activating underutilized spaces with festivals, public art, and trails. This study process leaned heavy on signature events, and we'll go through some framework moving forward to talk a little bit about what kind of events could be here and how can the city and you all as leaders get behind those festivals and events to draw people to the community moving forward. So to go through a quick overview, I want to hit on these quickly, but they're super important for this study as well as looking forward into the future. So you all are a small town feel in a rapidly growing city. People that we talk to in the community came here for that small town feel, and keeping that authentic to the place is super important moving forward. One thing that we know to be true is that you all are a community in search of an identity. We feel strongly that that is through physical spaces that an identity is truly felt. So creating a place that's an authentic, walkable downtown area is significantly needed especially along the 215 corridor. Finally, to wrap up on the last two here, design matters. Looking at urban design, landscape design, and continuing that feel throughout the community is super important as we start to look at some developments that are occurring throughout the city. And then finally, creating a regional destination with a local soul. You all are in the center of such a vast region. When we look at where San Diego is, Orange County, the proximity to Big Bear, the recreation up there, as well as LA, all within a 2-hour drive time. That is something that you all can leverage as we start to think about some of these strategic priorities, especially related to options with the Menifee Hills area, with mountain biking, recreation, and other types of options for families. So I want to acknowledge that there is so much going on in your all's community today. The great work from staff and you all as leaders. This is a testament to all the hard work, and we want this plan to build on that and align with the strategic plan that you all have created. So as a part of this process, we engaged with the local community throughout the entire planning process. We hosted 2 in-person working group sessions and then a 3-day familiarization tour where we toured around the entire community. And then we held over 35 virtual 30-minute interviews and then had over 1,000 survey responses from the local community. That is something that we don't see in every city, I will tell you that. So we were so pleased to see the engagement, and I want to hit on some of what residents said throughout the study process, because really this plan, we feel, embodies what they told us throughout the entire study process. So some of the positives you can see here that came through from the residents in terms of 3 words folks thought came to mind when they thought of Menifee. And then some of the negatives in terms of congestion or the lack of restaurants, traffic, overabundance of fast food in the community were some things that we heard throughout this survey. So when we came back to the community for a visioning session, it really built upon those survey responses that we were seeing, and this encapsulates some of those key areas that we talked about and heard from the community during those sessions that we held right in this room. So the desire for a downtown, taking advantage of the college, embracing a reputation for outdoor activities, branding the city, some of those shared challenges in terms of lack of entertainment and retail, growth management and identity. Those were things that we discussed with the community and we felt were very helpful in building out this plan and getting buy-in. So now I'm going to move into our pillars of place assessment. So this is a proprietary framework that our firm has put together that really looks at all of the core areas that makes up destinations. Everything from concerts and entertainment to hotels, we assessed all of those core areas that make up what a city is and what makes them a destination. This looks at supply, demand, overall visitation. We leveraged Placer.ai, which is a wealth of knowledge in terms of tracking of where people go. And this helped craft the strategy for this plan. So to get into some of these, as well as some of our recommendations and destination strategy, I'll start with the concert and entertainment facilities pillar. Many things that we heard throughout this process really revolved around what the Central Park Amphitheater will do, but the ability for that to be a heartbeat for additional opportunities in the future. We know that it is not the largest venue in terms of capacity, but can be a hub for other festivals and events that could occur in the community, and the connectivity to the retail district there will really provide great opportunities moving forward. So our recommendation for the destination strategy is to see the role that that can play, but also expanding on that in the future once that comes online with additional festivals, events, and programming of other live entertainment in the city. Sports facilities and outdoor recreation is and should be a core priority for the city moving forward. Families are coming here when we assess the demographics and looked at the community. This is something that really can be impactful in terms of bringing folks from the region in, and is something that we feel can really drive the performance of hotels in the market, as well as the local businesses that are here today. So our recommendations for the sports facilities and outdoor recreation pillar are to invest in the Menifee Hills Outdoor Recreation District through an adventure park with trails and mountain biking infrastructure, to begin to look and plan for an outdoor regional sports park with over 8 fields and courts for soccer, softball, baseball, cricket, and pickleball. And then in the long term, as the community grows, to look at indoor sports as an option as well. So that is more in the medium to long term. Those facilities are fairly costly, but the region is lacking an indoor sports complex for basketball, volleyball, and tournaments that can bring people here. And as a former athlete, I know I would be coming out here if that were here. So we wanted to show some inspiration of outdoor sports complexes that we felt embody what this recommendation could be, as well as some great inspiration for an adventure park. So a few here in Morgan Hill, Sunnyvale, and Norco. These are great complexes, and one that I love to show is the bottom right one in Norco, which is the Silver Lakes facility. The festivals and events that they hold there, you can see there's a Ferris wheel. They're holding concerts in multiple venues there. There's a lake feature. Something along those lines can really drive people and bring people to Menifee to show off what you have in the city today. As it relates to the outdoor adventure park, as we start to look at Menifee Hills and the position that the city has taken in terms of acquiring that land, we can start to look at an adventure destination for local families. This is a great example in Mammoth Lakes, California. I know that's a tourist town and different from here, but executing on something like this can be so impactful to the region. You can see the kids doing some little mining there in the Woolies mining little attraction. There's a ropes course in the back. You can see the mountain biking infrastructure here as well. And then a bungee trampoline little amenity here for some of the younger kids. So this is a facility that you can imagine the local families would love to go to on a Friday or Saturday, let the kids run around, and there's a restaurant on site as well. So a great asset for outdoor adventure park inspiration as we start to look to that as really an anchor for the community. So moving forward into the retail and dining section, you'll see some great analytics here, and there's much more in the full plan. But really, to encapsulate the recommendations, I mentioned it at the beginning, but looking towards a walkable retail and dining district, how that could be along the 215. We'll show some great examples of those, but think of a place that you can walk around on a Friday night, grab a bite to eat, and listen to a concert outside is really what is lacking in the community today, as well as some more sit-down dining options for those residents. So some inspiration here we wanted to walk through. These are some images that we feel embody where the city is going as we look at growth, but having that walkable area, some green space and trees, outdoor public plazas, and having some multifamily apartments for some of those newcomers into the community that may have a job in the innovation district and want that more urban feel in a community like this. So having those multifamily apartments over those restaurants and small retail shops can really be a space to bring the community together. So moving forward, I won't spend a ton of time on convention and meetings facilities. We assessed the market thoroughly and looked at the Fairfield and the function space within, and found that in the short term, convention and conference space is in significant demand in the city. So a short-term priority should not be building a conference or convention center, but looking towards the future for some sort of flexible multi-use space for different types of community events or regional events. And as we look at what's happening with the Innovation District, those employers would look for space like that in the community. So more of a medium or long-term priority for convention and events. Events meaning meetings. We'll get to the event stuff at the end in terms of festivals. So looking at the agricultural, exposition, and fairgrounds pillar, we looked at the local and regional events around, as well as those assets in the region. And what we found in looking at this is there's really a significant opportunity to leverage the proximity to Temecula Valley wine country, and having this be a place for visitors to that significant tourism draw, having them stay here and still go there. So benefiting from the dollars that are going there, but not becoming Temecula, because we want our identity to be different from theirs. Similar for the winery, brewery, distillery, and food hall pillar, we feel there's an opportunity to leverage the scenic Scott Road and strengthen that regional tie with the Temecula wine country. Foster regional collaboration to boost culinary tourism. There are some great restaurants here. Savage Chef is awesome. We feel building on that identity of being a culinary destination and helping those restaurants get off the ground will really help residents. We know the community wants those things, but can build on the identity of being a great place for people to live because of those offerings. So moving forward and looking at hotels, creating partnerships to drive wine tourism to Menifee, bundling hotel stays for guided tours, and then, as I mentioned, in the more medium to long term, attracting greater meetings and events with increased function space. So we know that the Fairfield has been successful with their meeting space. That shows that there's opportunity there. So future hotel product can include more of that, so that there's those events and people are coming to the city and realizing those types of opportunities. For the attractions, water parks, and theme park pillar, leveraging historical museum assets. There's so much history here that we learned throughout this study process that's embodied in some of the museums here. But leveraging those, showing those off, and then, as I mentioned, expanding the family entertainment offerings, which could look and feel many different ways. The outdoor adventure park is one, but looking towards other type of retail facilities that could have family entertainment options. We know that the theater, the movie theater, is a little bit of a sore subject, but having offerings and continuing to push for those in the community is so needed for the local families. So we know that that happened, but we want those type of things in the city. There are many reasons why that happened the way it did, but those things can be attracted and should come here given the amount of residential development coming your way. So to come back to some of that inspiration, I mentioned family entertainment, but you can see here the same example I showed before. The restaurant facility at the Woolies Adventure Summit, you can see the Adirondack chairs. Another, great example here to look to as inspiration. They also have a small little roller coaster for kids to go down, which is very well utilized. So finally, to wrap up with the last few pillars here, parks, trails, and outdoor space. I mentioned the investment in the 398 acres of Menifee Hills, but additionally looking at expanding trail connectivity and user amenities. So linking the Salt Creek Trail east and west and expanding the Paloma Wash Trail both north and south towards the Innovation District is something that will benefit the locals, but also when visitors come, they will be able to see that connectivity that the community has from the different assets. One thing that I wanted to mention as it relates to the outdoor district is some inspiration around mountain biking. We looked at the trail ecosystem in and around the area, and we know folks travel quite far for mountain biking. With the 398 acres and the topography there, there's the opportunity to do some of the success that Bentonville, Arkansas has done. Bentonville is now branded as the World Mountain Biking Hub. I actually talked with a professional mountain biker who lives up in Sacramento, and he flies out every year to Bentonville, Arkansas to ride his bike. and goes to the Sierras in the summer in Tahoe, but he's out in Bentonville in the winters. So you all here have such a significant opportunity by building out some trail ecosystems. You already have the great bike park, so you have that identity and can do similar things that they've done here. One thing that I'd also like to note that why this is such a great example is they've actually integrated public art within their trail system. So their art community has grown and it creates Instagrammable moments. So bikers stop along the trail and take pictures along the public art that is within the trail ecosystem. So it leaves visitors with a lasting impression because they see those pictures and they say, hey, I've never been on a mountain bike trail where there's art when you're riding by. So little small things like that can go such a long way. So now to get into the piece where we spent quite a bit of time, which is the last pillar on signature festivals and events. So a few things to note here before we get into the recommendations. Our recommendations are to capitalize on the Family Fun Fest. This could generate significant tourism and impact to the community through sales and hotel tax, as well as be an additional amenity to locals. We know that they are looking for a home, and being the hub for them will be a great opportunity. And then finally, the opportunity to host more festivals and events. We'll go through some of our recommendations that we've put forth, but there's such a strong need to really buy into the image and the identity of the town through events. So a few great examples of those: Boulder, Colorado with the Boulder Creek Festival, the Maker Faire events, which occur in various cities across the country, which are really innovation, entrepreneurship, and hands-on demo focused. You can see the drone racing sign there. They integrate with the local educational programs in terms of robotics and other things. So those are great events for the local community to get behind, for entrepreneurs and general innovation and growth. And then finally, a great event in the Southern California region in San Juan Capistrano is the Swallows Day Parade, which celebrates culture and history of the city. And we feel the heritage of San Juan Capistrano is similar, and we found many correlations here as we met with community members to what they've been able to produce there. So to get to our signature event recommendations, and I'll go through some of the framework we've put together, but we are so excited with how these came together, and we feel these are really a roadmap or a framework to build on. But first, I'd like to start with Menifee Adventure Fest, which could be an outdoor recreation and wellness celebration that leverages the outdoor recreation district, the 398 acres. And you can imagine with an adventure park like that one that I showed in Mammoth, with people coming there, small booths and kiosks for local businesses, bringing the culinary scene, having folks bring their families, it could be a great event. Next is Menifee Spark. This would be innovation and culture focused, highlighting MSJC and the city's entrepreneurial spirit, with the innovation district, new businesses coming to town, as well as potentially leaning into some of the programs of the local schools. This could be something that really builds on Menifee being an innovative place to live. And we feel this would attract so many eyes, and people would be excited that Menifee is taking a stance in being an innovative town looking forward into the future as it relates to technology, AI, different types of programs, and the local education as well. And then finally, a heritage celebration that honors the history and cultural roots and could have supporting events that are scalable, sustainable, and really reinforce all of those core themes of the community as well. So there's a lot on the screen here, but what I wanted to show is the depth of information and what we've put together in terms of this being a framework moving forward. So everything here for the first recommendation for Adventure Fest, we talk about when this could occur within the season to maximize the value to the local businesses, who the audience should be in terms of marketing of an event like this, different types of layouts that this type of event could have in terms of overall build out. And then finally, revenue potential and sponsorships with local businesses and what that could mean for the city. So all shown here for each of these. So you'll see that for Menifee Adventure Fest, but also for Menifee Spark. Similar here, showing the different framework that the city and staff can really build on to make these potentially come to fruition. And then finally, as I mentioned, heritage and growth concepts, Western and Heroes Festival, Menifee Historical Days, Central Park Summer Concerts, Music and Arts Festivals, or Gale Webb Extreme Sports Expo. These are different types of events that could build on the image of the town and really get people behind and building on that identity that we're hoping to create. And then finally, for our signature events recommendations, we talk through and walk through several different things that are needed moving forward to bring these to fruition. Everything from site selection, quality standards, with ADA accessibility and other things, and then the importance of programming and looking at this as a regional opportunity, bringing those different types of organizations into the community, collaborating with them, the different groups locally, whether it be veteran groups, cultural associations, artists, making sure that they're engaged to buy into these festivals, because that's what the ones that are successful are the ones that have buy-in from everyone in the community. So finally, we're getting to the end here, but our strategic framework for this plan really looks at three things. I've mentioned the strategy and the key outcomes from this plan, but there's still questions that we need to answer. And with that, there's specific action steps. I'll stop, and I want to tell a quick story. I was actually in Southern Virginia this past week with a destination management organization, and she had recently produced a similar plan to this. And she said, "Matthew, this is my Bible." She said, "I look at this thing as I point to it, I annotate it, it gets beat up, we're writing in it, we're checking things off, we're showing progress. So I want to tell you all that everything in here might not be perfect. There may be things in here that need to go on a tangent, or things may need to be expanded upon in the future because the economy and the community is ever evolving. What we see this as is something that should be living and breathing. And maybe it's not a Bible, maybe it's a playbook if you're a big NFL fan, but it's something that should be annotated, beat up, looked at. The words should be analyzed. So that is something that's super important to think about as we move into these final slides. So for our recommendations, identifying the college as a community anchor for festivals, events, partnerships, and what would be needed to really identify the college as a community anchor is to look at the different assets they have on campus, how they could host these events, and really to do this, there would be a targeted feasibility and economic impact study or assessment to look at how the college can do that, and how you all could partner with them for some of these options, really tying together the core part of town and the retail district that we have across the 215. The second is to plan and invest in the Menifee Outdoor Recreation District. So looking at infrastructure needs, access, traffic, funding, and community partners. And really this would be looking at planning and site infrastructure at the foremost, concept planning, partnership identification, and there's an opportunity to do a city-owned and leased to a private operator for an attraction like that. So finally, for the last two, establishing an epicenter in Menifee and key identity anchor. I showed those mixed-use images as inspiration, but really there's a lot of work that would be needed to bring those things to reality. So looking at an investment fund or an incentive strategy to work with landowners in the development community to bring those things to reality. And then finally, the fourth category here, or the fourth recommendation, is a fund for placemaking projects and initiatives. What this could look like may take many different forms. We work on these programs all across the country, looking at different incentive strategies to creatively utilize tax streams that come into the city to fund these types of projects. There's one that I'll mention that we've helped actually write and put into state legislation in the state of Kentucky, which is a development incentive for tourism-inducing projects. It takes state sales tax, excuse me, and provides those back to projects that are inducing tourism to the economy. So there are different types of structures. We'd have to look at the local policy as well as the state policy for those types of things, but communities look to creative ways to bring in projects that build on the tourism economy. So finally, before we open it up to questions and feedback, we see this as painting a picture of the future. We want to look back in 10 years and say, hey, we did great work to build the place and built on the work that has been done. So going from a bedroom community to a destination city, a canvas for culture, community, and celebration, and then a thriving economy built on experience and opportunity. So these three things we feel really embody what this plan can do. And some of the strategies are just a start to the hard work that needs to be done. But we've seen in all the destinations that we've worked in, starting with a plan, having strong leadership, and buying in behind the whole community can really create great projects and places. So with that, I'll open it up for comments and questions. Happy to go back to other slides. There's a ton more work. I know you guys have seen the full plan, but I'll open it up to anyone for comments or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Avila. We appreciate that, and Kayla Charters and the entire economic development team, all of staff. Very thorough presentation. Great job. So we'll open it up for questions from council to start, and then we'll open it up to the public to share their comments, and then after that, we'll have council comments. So council, let's start off with questions. Yes. If anyone in the audience would like to speak, please fill out a speaker slip. Council, do we have any questions? Okay, Councilman Dynas.
I know it's the 50,000 foot look at this, and the devil's in the details and stuff, but at least we have a direction. But some of these things like the outdoor, the Woolly Adventure Summit, is that a public or privately owned?
So that is privately owned. So that was developed by the Altera Mountain Company. But there are several other examples that we can show where there have been publicly owned similar adventure parks, but that is a privately owned facility.
So when you talked about the land that we bought and doing an operator, contract out, is that kind of what you had in mind then, something along this line?
I think it can be pursued. We've seen that be successful for facilities like that are community-driven assets. So we've seen that be successful. Especially it allows facilities like that to be built a little bit quicker. Sometimes the private sector may not see that opportunity, or it may take a while to get their interest to build a facility like that. So it is a strategy that can be looked at.
Okay, my final question is, you've worked with a number of different agencies, cities, counties, towns, whatever they are called across the country. How long does it take generally these other entities that take something like this and start putting it into place before they start seeing some real change? I know it's not going to happen tomorrow or the next day, or or maybe not even 5 years from now, I don't know, but what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll give an example. We recently completed a plan for Hamilton County, Indiana, which is a northern suburb of Indianapolis. So it was a county-wide tourism plan. The outcomes of that plan actually led to us creating policy. So we actually created a local investment fund similar to the one that we talked about here. as a strategy or recommendation moving forward. So that is now in place, and we actually have several applications in. So we finished the plan just about 2 years ago, and we helped them create the policy at the county level to incentivize tourism projects, and they have applications in, so we're evaluating those to give some of the tourism tax dollars that they have in the community back to projects that will grow the economy. So in terms of time frame, that's a great example where we finished the plan 2 years ago. We spent a hard year working on policy and buy-in from local leaders, and now we actually have projects that are in the pipeline that will grow the economy. So some of these can happen within the next 1 or 2 years. Some of the priorities may take 5 or 10 years because they're heavier lifts and take quite a bit more time. So I would say as we start to look at the future of the city, there are priorities here that we can get behind that could happen in the next 1 or 2 years for several of these.
Thank you, Councilman Dynas. Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Thank you. I can almost picture Dr. James Adams throwing stuff at his computer right now, yelling, "I've been trying to tell you this for 20 years." So I started to laugh out loud here because the advice is, if you want to grow tourism, what you need to do is get a big sports facility, right? Get a downtown brewing area, have a large family-friendly attraction, and put on a giant music festival. I don't know that we needed a consultant to tell us that. It's not like we're turning these things away now from us, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would like to hear is maybe some guidance as to how we convince our large landholders to convert from their current plans of how they think they can make a ton of money to this plan. Because what we hear a lot is we talk to developers and we say, what we'd really like is this. They go, yeah, that's not us. We build commercial. Yep. What we'd like is a big facility, a sports facility. Yep. Yeah. We build houses. That's what we build here. Yep. So how do we get developers to pivot from their current plan to this one?
That is probably the hardest question I could have received.
That's the question we need to answer. We've got land. We know this stuff. Every single person who came to these meetings told us all of this stuff. Everybody in this community knows all of this stuff. So how do we do it?
What I would say is, if there are ways to convince them through incentive agreements to get what you all as a city need, and there's a lot of work to be had as it relates to how that could happen. But typically in any development that we've seen across the country, we've worked for private developers. We do about 25% of our work for private developers. So money talks and incentive agreements makes them build what cities want them to build. So if there is any way to look at creative strategies, and we haven't done that in this plan, this was step one, but there's more work to be done after the fact to say, how do we get what we want from these landholders? And from our experience, typically it's through incentive strategies that can be put in place to help them get either built faster, which I know there's a lot of struggles related to that, related to regulations and things that have to go through the planning process, but making it easier for them to develop, or having tax strategies that can offset their burden to help them build what the community wants them to build. So that isn't easy, but that is how things get done. We do a ton of, and I'll give one example. We do a ton of headquarter hotel work, which are the super tanker large hotels next to convention centers. The market will, if you just left it to the market to build a hotel next to a convention center, it would probably be a 200-room hotel or a 150-room hotel. However, the convention center needs an 800 or 1,000-room hotel to bring a large event there. So how they get a developer to build that, they say, hey, we're going to give you all the taxes that will be generated by the visitors to help you build an 800-room hotel that we need in our city. So again, there's a lot of detail there and things that have to happen, but to get what cities and municipalities want, typically it's working through hard conversations with incentive agreements to get great public walkable plazas or development that wouldn't occur just naturally by the market.
To follow up on that, I know you talked about that regional, that county-wide thing you just finished up right there, which is obviously a larger geographic area, lots of different municipalities involved, things like that.
Yep.
From a population standpoint, one of the frustrating problems we have when we go to ICSC or any of those events, they tell us you just don't have the rooftops, you don't have the demographics to overcome our data points and analytics.
Yep.
Where do we need to be as a population to incentivize these developers to even look at us?
I would say every user and developer is different, so everyone will have their own criteria. So the Trader Joe's criteria is different from the Topgolf criteria and is different from the developer that wants dense multifamily users. So everyone has different criteria and thresholds for rooftops as well as incomes. So it's really dependent on what you all are targeting. But what I would say is your all's pipeline and growth that you're seeing in the community, that is, if not on the doorstep, it is, in the next several years from our perspective, will be there. There's economic forces and what things look like in the next 5 years, but there isn't a magic number in terms of level of income or population that you all need to be at. One thing that we've seen successful in communities is putting together almost, and I'm sure you all have done this, I know Kayla does this all the time related to bringing in businesses, but having a sales document showing where the city is going to be in 5 years and working hard with those users that are on the border to say, hey, you're not quite there yet. And then again, coming back to incentive agreements to say, hey, we're willing to do X, Y, and Z to get you here. I know you're on the border and you don't think we're there yet, but we feel we are, and here's how we can help you get there. So that's what I'd say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't see any other questions from council in the queue. I'll open it up now to public comment. Madam Clerk Rosine, are there any requests to speak or has any correspondence been received?
Yes, there is a request to speak.
Okay, can you please call the first speaker?
We first have Elaine McGee, followed by Julie Zimmerman.
Good evening, Ms. McGee.
Hello, thank you for having me, and that presentation was super inspiring. As a resident of Audie Murphy Ranch, I'm super excited to see that the town council is looking at this topic for to make our city better. So I'm here specifically to talk about art in public spaces and really for you to think about it as an umbrella that could go across your entire infrastructure. And I'll tell you why. So I traveled the country in RV with my family for 2 years before we settled in Menifee. And we found amazing little towns that had something. They had a festival. They had a sculpture garden. They had something that was memorable. And as we saw today, it's great to know that town council is really looking to make that impact for our community. And studies show that when you have art in public spaces, it reduces crime, boosts tourism, and brings satisfaction to the residents. So I'd like you to think about this wonderful plan that was presented today, but think of art in public spaces as an umbrella to weave together the Menifee story, the heritage, and how we want to present ourselves to the entire community. Menifee has great parks and open spaces, and so incorporating art into all of the public spaces, like the outdoor land that was purchased, restaurants. I'll give you a couple good examples that I've seen across country. I was actually going to mention Bentonville. I visited there, and the bike trails are legendary, and they do have incredible art throughout the nature and in the city district. Another good example nearby is Vista. They redid a 2-block street where they have murals, mosaics, and statues. And it's a great landmark space in their community. So I encourage you to think about art as a umbrella from which we can tell our story, we can have some pride and build safety, boost tourism, and satisfaction for the community.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. Good evening, Mrs. Zimmerman.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Julie Zimmerman, and I'm with the Menifee Valley Historical Association and Museum. I'm really happy to see this document, and I love the term cultural included in the document. I provided a handout. It's 2 pages. The front page of the first one shows what we've done to date as an organization. We've provided 12 historical monuments around the city that show historical significance in the area. We have signage for Route 395 along Encanto and Antelope. We've provided photos to a developer for a pocket park, and it's park benches that are located there in the apartment area called the Towns Project. On the back page, there's a great program. It's called Audio, and you can drive around in your car and listen to anything that's in the area, as long as you have your GPS on, and I believe there is a slight charge for the app. But we have 3 audio projects on the program, and this is a project that Kevin Costner put together, and it's nonprofit. So I'd encourage you all, if you drive around in your car, to look at Audio. We have Quail Valley, Newport Ranch, and the 1890 School. The last item on that first page is what we have coming up very soon. And I was so happy to work closely with the planning department for the installation of some murals at the McCall project, located on McCall and close to Menifee Road. And then I look forward to placemaking projects in the future, and that's some examples that I provided on the second page. It includes things like monuments. Maybe we can have some park enhancements that include Native American items, and then murals. Let's see, let me check my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. I am looking forward also to the MOU, working with the City of Menifee on the Memo of Understanding. We have several ideas that we want to propose getting forward, and there's a lot of great items that the city's proposed as well. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have and let you know that I'm looking forward to this immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Mike Knighton, followed by Mary Carnes.
Welcome, Mr. Knighton.
Hello, everyone. First of all, happy birthday, Menifee. I want to thank Hunt and Partners. They did a great job, I believe. It was really, I loved our conversation. I'm planning commissioner. We got a couple other people that were here that day. I wish we had a little bit more time, maybe a second meeting, because everything I got here is additional. Everything, and like I said, everything I got here is in addition to their presentation. One of the things that I wanted to add to the placemaking is that we turned Evan Ranch, the North Park, into an indoor-outdoor water park, including a special needs adventure park, similar to the All Abilities Park, Thunder Junction in St. George, Utah. That alone will bring numerous people, overnight trips. It'll bring them from many states away, because there's really nothing like that on the West Coast. St. George has it. As far as signature event, I'd like to look into something called Menifee Days. Just a 6 or 7 day event, kind of like what the AMR gal was talking about, how she goes to different towns and she's seen some stuff there. We can capitalize on a lot of things. If we move all of our events to like a week, people stay. They book our hotels, they eat at our restaurants. We don't really have an event right now that draws people in overnight. They come for a day. Most of it's people here. We do have some travel, according to your deal there, that people travel a little bit, but nothing a lot. Now here's where Julie judges me. One of the things that we have that's never really been brought up in the past 10 or 15 years is we have a history of dirt. We have, let me read this so I don't make a mistake here. We're home to one of the greatest supercross riders of all time, and we're still producing second generation supercross riders. We are the home to the godfather of freestyle motocross and some of the best FMX riders to ever throw their leg over a bike. And just southeast of us, we also are home to to other FMX riders. And we're also home to 2 monster trucks. If we can somehow have a dirt day or something like that, that'd be great. I'm running out of time. I love that. Since we're, and I'll wrap this up. We need to seriously consider bonded debt in order to pay for all this. Our city doesn't have the money for anything in this presentation. We
Mr.
could pay,
Nunn.
I know, Stephanie, I know. Okay, thank you.
Mary Carnes, followed by Laz Peterson.
Good evening, Mrs. Carnes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and administration. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk, and that was a really great presentation. I do agree with Councilmember Carwin about, we have been talking about this for many, many, many years, lots of these items. I just wanted to comment on a couple things that were brought up, and you were talking about the epicenter being the college. Well, we're going to have this great amphitheater, and we should really utilize that as much as we can. And even doing a music festival at the amphitheater, couple-day music festival, where we could highlight major talent and local talent and artists and vendors. And I know parking is a problem, but I look at the Laguna Art Festival and the Sawdust Festival. There's no parking over there. They have millions of people coming, but they have shuttle service from their other parking lots. So that's kind of an option that we could look at once the amphitheater is built. And also a smaller indoor live venue for music and entertainment. And I'm thinking, you know, we talked about the Mott's Museum, and we know that the Menifee Museum is trying to move over there next to Mott's. Why not make that like a Menifee cultural corner, where we have several museums, we have an indoor venue for entertainment, maybe a art boutique or something that brings it all together. And there are a few restaurants over there right now, but I don't know, I just think that would be a really great place to do something like that. And on my third thing is, on the unique identity, we have several communities within Menifee. Each community has its own unique identity. They're very proud of those identities. And Menifee's known for its, you know, its acorn and its oak tree. Why not have, Elaine used the umbrella word, but have the oak tree as an umbrella with all of the different communities identified underneath, like, you know, put art with quails in Quail Valley, or, you know, Sun City, or Romoland. I mean, everybody has their own unique thing. And Arts Council is here to help in every way we can with the city. We have an MOU with the city, and we are here for you, and we really want to help make this a reality. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Carnes.
Laz Peterson, followed by Merlin Reeves.
Hey, Mr. Peterson.
Good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon, City. So we came to Menifee specifically to plant our roots, and we pick most of our fruit in Murrieta, Lake Elsinore. You know, you guys know the deal. You know, I've been tracking youth sports organizations in southwestern Riverside County over the past couple of years, and we're looking at significantly explosive growth in that sector. It's not just our city that has demands. We have demands in every city that surrounds us, and even further south towards North San Diego County. I love the sports recreation pillar, and so I'm going to be speaking mainly on that one. So, you know, I just want to say, if we keep it simple, let's just, stick to ground and, maintain it well and get back down to earth. 500 acres, wherever we can get it, however we can get it, has potential to bring in tens of thousands of outside visitors per month during the best parts of the year. And it's easy because we don't have to deal with commercial developers in this unless we're doing, a public-private partnership type of a deal. We'll need more hotels. We've been traveling the southwestern United States past year or two and have been to different complexes and fairgrounds, and the number of people that show up is very significant. Something like this could spark an economic development fire where we're actually creating a demand for developers to engage us with what they want and us being able to leverage what they really want. And decrease the leverage they have on us. And I think that's a big deal because then it just makes things easier as time goes forward. Creates a win-win between Menifee, our local businesses, and our residents, families, and youth. And time is essential though, whichever way we go and whatever we're doing. I feel like we got to move quickly, and we can't miss opportunity with rising costs all around and inflation and everything else. So let's see, can I find anything else to ramble about for a minute? I'm just kidding. I just want to say that if I have to step out, it's because I got to get to a children's activity, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Merlin Reeves, followed by Sarah Hakala.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. I didn't at all plan or think that I would be at the podium, but I appreciate the opportunity. I'm a new resident to Menifee of 6 months. I came down from Santa Clarita, California, if you're familiar. That's the high desert. This is the low desert. Very much similar to, obviously, temperature and weather. But I have to say I'm coming to you, or I'm at the podium only because I want to specify from a project management viewpoint. I am a certified project manager, and I have handled such customers as Caesars Entertainment, Princess Cruises, large installations. Disneyland was an account at one point. So, of course, I can't help but compare to these large locations in acreage, in people who attend events there, and so on. The first word that came to mind as I was sitting in the audience is infrastructure. And I didn't hear anybody referring to that at all. Now, my field is telecommunications. I know we're in this world with wireless communications capabilities with all of our cell phones and so on. So it's no longer such a hard wire situation in cabling underground and so on, but it's still a definite aspect, infrastructure overall, whether it's for telecom or water support and plumbing and so on. So I'm sure the meeting isn't long enough for you to have had an expert in each of those areas in today's meeting. But I will just say from a project management viewpoint, there are many more things to be considered, not that you wouldn't think of this. I wondered if you had involved filming as productions coming into the area and speaking to their needs in particular, because that's obviously money-making. Financing, taxes, does this mean from a population viewpoint that we're all going to have our taxes go through the roof to support all of this? Again, my field is telecommunications. Have you thought about that support? Unions being represented, coordinating with the highway department, coordinating with the county, emergency medical, all these words come to mind, again, because I'm a project manager. So I hope that you'll keep in mind that whatever person either is lucky or unlucky to be the overall project manager, I hope that you're involving them early on in the whole planning of it, as well as the implementation. My thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sarah Hakala, followed by Kathy Price.
Good evening, Mrs. Akala.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was not planning on coming up here, but after being involved in this and seeing everything, I do have like a recommendation or something that maybe the council can look into. There is precedent for it where a city or municipality can own some type of entertainment or something. There are cities in the US that do own theme parks and other things like that. But what I'm really, my focus is on the kids that can't play outside when it's too hot, or if it's too cold or when it's raining, we need something for those kids to do to burn off their energy indoors. So I talked to a lot of people, not a lot of neighbors in my community, and they were recommending maybe a trampoline park, something that would pay for itself in the long run. It could generate revenue for the city. So that's just something to kind of look into. I know cities can do it, but obviously it all comes down to money. So that's my only piece right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Akala. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Kathy Price.
Good evening, Mrs. Price.
Good evening, Mayor and council people. I didn't plan on speaking as the other lady, but I was thinking, she mentioned inside and something for the kids, and I was thinking more like museum-related, education, and like wildlife or natural park, nature park, that you could build inside and have different specimens or live shows so that kids would come in and learn about the environment in Menifee. This was a farming committee, and that's its history, is farming and ranching, etc. And they had a lot of animals here, the ground squirrels, etc. I'm kind of reading this on the spur of the moment, like educational, interactive, and things like that. You can have the other sports, but we have that already, but I am for it, but we also need to educate our youth. And being involved with other museums, I see how they react when we have tours at other museums to nature. They're just thrilled, and they keep coming back. They want to learn more about nature, animals, farming, vegetables, just different things. And Menifee is known for that. That's its history, mining. And the founders here were pioneers from the 1800s or earlier. So I would like to see maybe some interest stretched towards that, and the culture part of the museum, like Julie's, intertwine all that together under one umbrella. And the arts, all that in one giant facility, and people will come. You should be surprised how many parents goes, we're missing this type of a museum or cultural attraction. We have the amusement parks, they're close, and we have a lot of bike trails, but we don't want to ruin nature either. I mean, land is valuable, it's being eaten up. We can still develop with reasonable consideration to the area around us. And believe it or not, people will come because there's no nature thing out here in this area. You have to go to LA, you have to go San Diego, and the traffic's horrendous. So we could develop that with the museum and the artifacts and the history. I think that would be a win-win for everybody. You could have a little combination of both, and when it rains, it's inside. You have the art display, you have the museum stuff, you just have everything in one place, and people will come. You'd be surprised. You have young families here. Temecula will come to here. You'd be surprised. Anza, Hemet, they all come here. We have bird walks out in Lakefield area, and that's
Ms.
always
Price.
filled. So the interest is there. We just got to develop it. And I hope you consider that and kind of keep the EIRs, I understand, but kind of keep everything, but develop it reasonably and culturally and historically.
Thank
And
you,
art.
Mrs. Price.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
No other speakers.
No
Mayor.
other speakers? Okay, that was good. We had 9 public speakers. That's excellent. Okay, next we'll open it up for discussion and comments from council. Okay, I'll go ahead and start it off. The gravity of this discussion is so important, and it's gonna help us. It's a roadmap. it's a roadmap for our city to go forward into what we're going to be known for, how we stand out in the region. And I'm so glad all of the committee members and commissioners are here, because we all have to be towing in the same direction to do this at the Planning Commission, the Parks Commission, Measure DD, Citizens Advisory Committee. So I'm happy everyone showed up here. You know, eventually we're going to have to rebrand our identity a little bit. We're new, better, best right now, but that's not going to last forever. And we need to establish ourselves as a powerhouse in the region. And new, better, best is going to wear off one day. And so all of us in this room are the visionary leaders. And I'm very glad and happy we're having this discussion now and planning ahead for that day. A few notes that I took that I think the city can do on its part, we can, as council can do on our part, outside from the private investment. I tell city management all the time during the city council meetings, hey, the downtown's important, incentivizing them is important, and they nod their heads and they know what's going on. And so creating the downtown for developers, being friendly for developers and incentivizing them to bring a downtown, something unique and special, I know the executive team is aware of. Number two, which I think is important, the Menifee Hills. Those 400 acres, it's a slam dunk. Okay, no other city has that. Even Mount Rubidoux in Riverside is smaller than this. Menifee Hills is 150% bigger than Mount Rubidoux. And so I think we can really utilize the Menifee Hills as a signature place for Riverside County residents to go. It's gonna connect to the Salt Creek Trail. And we have another presentation later on in our city council meeting about connecting the Salt Creek Trail to the Menifee Hills. So I think the Menifee Hills project is a big ticket item. The third thing that the city can do within its control is placemakers, giving our families and friends places that they can be proud of, take a selfie with their families. One thing I will look at bringing back for council discussion is the utility boxes and putting art on that. I think that's a small, low-hanging fruit that drivers can see through our main arteries every day. Last couple notes I had was, we are known as a bedroom community right now, but you know, I think the economic corridor along the 215 is gonna be big for us, developing that, and we can maintain our small town feel with keeping the outer skirts small, maintaining it as rural as possible for the heritage and history that we're proud of, and really developing that open space along the 215. You know, I think these are all priorities that take us in the right direction. It's a roadmap, and it'll allow our residents and all of us as council members to see our city grow organically and maybe not force a unique identity down everyone's throat. Things will be able to grow organically and naturally, and the goal is in 10 years to have that significant rebranding to where we stand out amongst our neighbors in the region. IT, can you show one of the slides about the executive summary? Yeah, staff, I think this is a great slide to keep in mind going forward. This executive summary summarizes everything we talked about, everything I support. I think the economic development team did an excellent job. I think, Mr. Avila, you did a great job. I'm very, very, very happy with this. It's a roadmap that leads us in the right direction, and it has my signature of approval. Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Thank you, Mayor. By the way, I know I gave you a hard time, but I really like this. Anybody who's ever heard me speak at all knows that I've been a proponent for most of this stuff for a long time. For very obvious reasons, I really would love to have an indoor entertainment music facility. I've always talked about in San Juan, Capistrano, there's the Coach House, which holds about 1,500 people and has kind of higher level entertainment, nationally recognized entertainment. A Coach House location in Menifee would just crush all the time. And if the Coach House is listening, we want you here. You could take over my backyard. I don't care. From a very specific standpoint, from something the city can do, I'm reminded in Aurora, Illinois, they have the Fox Valley Park District. We have a lot of similarities in our city to Midwest and Northeast because they have the limitations of cold weather where they need to have people active all year round and they're limited by the super cold weather. Where we have 113 degrees, the limitations are kind of similar. So what Ms. Hakala was saying, I agree with you. I have a very specific template, which is the Vaughn Athletic Center in Aurora, Illinois, at the Fox Valley, part of the Fox Valley Park District. It has a small indoor water park with water slides indoors. It's got a basketball court. It's got tennis facilities. It's got a gym. It's got all those kinds of things, and it's a municipal facility, and it's indoors, so the weather doesn't prevent people from staying active, and they can run their programs year-round. I've visited it personally. I have used the facility. It's beautiful, and it's run by their municipality, which is something that we are lacking, something very specific like that. I am concerned about how we're going to do this. And Mayor, I just want to say I'm concerned about the messaging that you in particular are putting out there, because I watched an interview you did recently on Menifee Experience where you were talking about we want to keep our rural feel, we want to cut down on development, we want to do all that kind of stuff, while at the same time trying to encourage developers to come here and build a bunch of stuff, when the spokesperson for our city is telling the developers, but we don't want any more people, we don't want any of that kind of stuff. You know, you use the word rural feel, you know, and you talked about today the outskirts, keeping it a rural feel and developing along the Hahn corridor. I think I'm reciting that correctly. But telling developers that we don't want any more development except for them to bring their stuff in here, I don't know if they're going to be incentivized to come if our city council is messaging that we don't want to build out the rest of the city around it.
So I definitely want to incentivize the commercial aspect. I think the residents have spoken up several times, and you'll even see it in the 1,000 people that took the survey, enough houses. That's what the people keep saying. So I'm a messenger of my constituents. That's what they're saying in the survey. They want more entertainment, more commercial development. They appreciate their small town feel, and I'm going to represent my constituents.
And I understand that. You've been very consistent about that position all along. I will end by saying this Menifee Hills project is the pillar. I mean, we've got these 5 pillars. The roof on all of those pillars is the Menifee Hills project. If we can develop that into a template of this Bentonville thing, I know that the Keller Road bike trails are going to be closing soon, and some of the developers have talked about incentivizing or signage, sending them over here. Well, we got to have a place for them to go. So the sooner we can get that rolling, I think that's something. You were talking about low-hanging fruit. I agree with you on the placemaking art, that kind of thing. I think everybody agrees that would be a cool thing. And I think the next step up from that on low-hanging fruit is that Hill project, to get that rolling and get that up and running as soon as we possibly can, because that, to me, would open up the floodgates for everything else. We would have a thing. And you want to talk about unique identity, that would be all this other stuff, having a music festival. A lot of places have music festivals. Our music festival might be different from others. A lot of people have cultural festivals. A lot of people have museums. But this mountain of biking and hiking trails would be an international draw that would make us known all over and would really create Menifee as a thing different from everybody else. So I would just want to encourage, the bookend of my comments are, one, I'd really like to see us start to look at investing into a large indoor facility, which is more than just a basketball court that can be converted to a volleyball court that can be converted to a meeting room, something with actual facilities to do stuff that we can run programs inside, and to get those trails up and running just as fast as we possibly can. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, any other comments at this time? Okay, I see none. I have a few small constructive criticism things to bring up, and Mr. Avila said, hey, this document's meant to be shredded and pushed around a little bit, right? So, all right, I'll give you what you want. All right. So a few things that I think are should be addressed is the amphitheater. I think we all want that to be successful. It's going to be a part of our city. It's coming. I want it to be successful. As mayor, I want every part of our city to be successful. The small concern I have with it, though, is looking at schematics. It's the most we can fit in there is 1,000 people, maybe 1,500. And so I just find it might be a little bit difficult logistically to make it a regional hub for big events. I think MSJC is more suited for that. But if we can be creative, we can be creative. But just throwing that out there with the logistical nature of that space. And then two, we talk about events. I liked what Ms. Price mentioned and the Historical Association mentioned, you know, the events that bring out our culture and history, you know, those are things we can really relate to. And Arts Council mentioned, you know, the unique identity of every small community and their history and bringing everyone together. We can all agree that those things do exist in our city and they are part of us and who we are. I think the newer events like the Menifee Spark and the things that aren't directly tied to Menifee, we can debate at a later date. But I think the culture and the heritage as part of the events is a win. Okay.
I just want to jump in and end by saying I'm all in favor of the incentives to convert some of those large properties for this kind of public benefit. If we can get some of these failed box store distribution centers to convert into 14 baseball fields, that would be a win for everybody. And I'm all in favor of any kind of incentives we want to discuss to do something like that.
Nice. Push back on the warehouse. Finally, I got that. All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Temple.
Yeah, Bob, you stole it. But a couple other things that I really liked. One, first, I think the plan is really well thought out, and I appreciate that it is supposed to be something that lives and breathes and gets massaged. Two things that stood out to me: city-owned, leased to private operator. You know, I think that concept could really help us develop those Menifee Hills as we consider a partnership with private entities to further develop that area. And then also to go along with what Bob said, you know, we can't tell somebody what to do with their private property. We can't compel them not to build or to build. All we can do is incentivize. And I think if the city continues to work hard, you know, Ms. Charters and her team and the city as a whole works hard to incentivize these developers and these landowners to look at what the city wants, not what's going to give them necessarily the biggest bang for the buck, but how we can work in partnership so that they're satisfied with how the property is developed and we're satisfied with the end product. I think that's really important. We have to have a relationship with those people to get what we want, and both parties are satisfied. So I'm looking forward to this, and I think those comments about incentivizing are really important, and we should really look at doing what we can.
Thank you, Councilmember Temple. Councilmember Diedrich.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm just going to echo what a lot of people have said up here already. Bob stole several of my comments, which is, I think, common, but that's all right. I think it's a fantastic roadmap of where I think we all would love to see us go, and I would echo Bob's question of now, how do we actually make that happen, right? What are the next steps to get to these fantastic ideas, and how do we do that? So looking forward to the next steps of figuring that out, whatever that looks like. Bob's most recent comment about, you know, maybe converting some of those spaces if that worked out that way. That's fantastic to hear, because I was very happy to see that the regional sports park was something that was highly demanded in this document, and I know we actually have that coming up at the next meeting, a report, so I hope staff is looking at creative ways of how we might make that happen.
Thank you, Councilmember Diedrich. Councilmember Dynas.
Yeah, I think this is a great roadmap, as it were. You know, that was we've done the easy part now. Now it's time to roll up the sleeves and, you know, do all the hard work, and how do we make this happen? And I think this, you know, it gets us pointed in the right direction, which is, I think, where we needed. You know, I think that's the most helpful part of all this. And we have so many different facets, so many different people wanting different things. You know, and as a government, there's only so many things that we can do, and that one thing we can do right now is the Menifee Mountains. that's the only land we have under control that could be a destination type of place. So, you know, I think that, and if we brought that in, it incentivizes hotels to come in when we have different kind of, you know, I mean, I'm just getting done with my training wheel, so I've never done the dirt stuff before because that was way before after my time. But I'm sure they have tournaments or races and stuff like that. I can see bringing a lot of, you know, out of town events to that, which would incentivize our hotels, which would help want to, you know, look, they'll need places to eat and all and shop and all that stuff. So I think, to me, that's the beginning step. It's the one thing that we have control over, the land and the ability to design and look for partners in it. So I would think, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, I think he said it wisely, is that that's the first place to start. I think once we get known for that, there'll be much more interest, and we can start looking at doing the indoor type of things and stuff. But it's hard to bite off more than what we can chew at one time. And everything else will require cooperation with property owners and developers and everything else. But this is the one thing we can do ourselves. So, yeah, I would very much be in favor of looking towards something like that.
Thank you, Councilman Dynas. Okay, everyone, it looks like those are all the comments at this time from council. I want to thank the entire economic development team, Hunden Partners, all of the city staff, definitely everyone in attendance today who shared their insights and opinion. We really, really appreciate the public participation. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll adjourn this meeting at 5:27.